Good evening, good afternoon, good morning, wherever we are. We are international, and I love streaming from my star in the galaxy to your star in the galaxy. My name is Dr. Tovah Goldfine, and this is TMS Roundtable Recovery, where each week we bring together leading voices in the field in mind body medicine and really neuroplastic healing and recovery. I've been meeting people for about the last 7 years, and I'm not planning to stop. We meet with neuroscientists and doctors and therapists, amazing healers, movie directors, authors, and most important, individuals that are recovering from chronic pain and autoimmune symptoms or people that are on the recovery program. So I feel very blessed to be here each week. Tonight, I'm honored to bring back my friend and colleague, Dr. Brad Fanestil, a board certified internal medicine doctor with more than 30 years of clinical experience. Now, we're going to talk about this because after decades of seeing patients whose chronic symptoms did not improve, he started thinking, what's going on here? And I always like to find out from any medical doctor who kind of takes one foot from one world into the other because it's not typical. You're not the typical doc. So Dr. Fanestil began exploring the new neuroscience of pain and anxiety, discovered that many chronic symptoms are learned patterns in the nervous system and that these patterns can be rewired. Today, he teaches people how to rewire the neurocircuitry of anxiety and chronic pain through his programs at Boulder Mind Body Medicine. So I'm always honored to be sitting next to you, and I really appreciate you giving us an hour. So, like I said, I'm going to sit back and listen because I love when you speak. But I think the listeners, Brad, tonight want to hear, like, why aren't all medical doctors doing this? What is it about that you began to look deeper and see something else there, which again, I think makes you more special than you already are. So can you share a bit about how you moved into this and how many people you've been helping? And then I want to talk about what's happening with lots of our clients is people are getting stuck. And I think we can address that. But first, give us a timeline, Dr. Brad, of when this all happened for you.
Yeah. Hi, Tovah. Thanks for, I love talking about this. So thanks for asking me to talk about it because I just love doing that. It's just such a new way. It's a new, different way of thinking. I know it's not that new for you or for me anymore, but it's different and new for most people, and it's a little. It requires a little cognitive leap for a lot of people to say, "What? What do you mean my back pain's not coming from my back? It is coming from your back. There's real neurons firing. It's just not coming from tissue damage in the back." There are other ways that neurons fire. Namely, your nervous system fires them, and nervous systems get into habits and patterns, and they make mistakes, and that's what we're talking about here. So I got into this back in I think 2017, 2017 or so. A patient walked into my office and told me he read a book, and then his back pain got better. And I thought, you can't get better from reading a book. I've been holding your hand with this pain for 10 years. What do you mean you got better reading a book? And it was John Sarno's The Divided Mind. And I had read Sarno 15 years earlier. I'd read the Mind Body Prescription, and I knew there was something there. But at that time in my career, I had no time to read extra books. I knew where the Mind Body Prescription book was. It was in my basement, and I knew right where. And so that night, I went home and read that book. I ordered The Divided Mind. And over the next few weeks, we got into that, and then I've got a longer story that's kind of interesting about my own back issue that happened to occur during that time. But bottom line is that that led me to some conferences and learning about this, and then I had a patient a different patient who I was seeing who had also had chronic back pain and was on chronic narcotics and had been for many years, way before I met him. He'd been on narcotics and he'd had one failed back surgery, and nobody was really offering him another surgery. There wasn't much to do. He was 40 years old and there was nothing serious going on in his spine. But boy, he was disabled and on the couch all day. And anyway, I talked to him about these ideas. And the first time I talked to him about them, I knew him and I had a good relationship. So he was skeptical. He wasn't skeptical of me, but he was skeptical of the ideas. And I said, "Yeah, yeah, go look at this stuff and think about it." And anyway, the next time I saw him, he was a little more receptive, although still in all this pain. And I remember walking out of that visit where he seemed a little more receptive and telling some other doctors in my office, who all knew this guy, "Hey, if this guy gets better, I'm quitting." And he did get better. 6 months later, he was in there off narcotics and back at a job, actually. And actually, now he's well enough to be out. He had a new romantic relationship, and he's just totally living life again. Anyway, when he got better, I said, "Well, I said I was gonna quit if he got, and I'm gonna do it." So I quit and, just shifted gears, and since then, since 2018, since early 2019, I've been doing only mind-body medicine, and I've now seen hundreds of other, similar types of recovery kind of things.
Still prescribing medication to these people and doing like an integrative approach with some of your clients?
I'm not. I have shifted completely over, and I don't mind people who, if you need medications, that's fine. But I found that trying to do them both together, I would spend half the visit would be on your medication dose and what's it doing and the side effect, and here's your options to switch, and I'm like, that's not what I'm doing. We're working with the idea that you can change your nervous system. And right now, if where you are is you need some medications, then that's okay. But get those somewhere else and let's focus our stuff here. So I made that choice partly also because I'm old. I'm an old guy. And I just said, the office I'm in now, I was like, I didn't want to deal with. There's a lot of just so much extra paperwork and logistics with medication prescribing, and um, so yeah, I'm really just doing
No,
right.
it's wonderful. No, it's wonderful. Enthusiasm and your appreciation of this work and your ability to bring very scientific um, concepts down to what I call the layman is really it's very, first of all, it's a skill, it's a talent. I mean, you got up on a TED talk and you you were funny but real and authentic and brilliant. And and all the docs are that you're working with and I'm working with. And yet I, I I think this is such important knowledge for people to understand. And let's start there. The knowledge is what people are getting, and they're like, yes, you're right. I understand it. But now what's happening is they're getting stuck in the knowledge, you know, um, the loop, and they're not able to apply and implement it. And so I think this is, and we're seeing the kind of people that are like excited and get the knowledge and yeah, you're right, but then can't apply and implement it. So let's chat there because that's the kind of people who are coming to us, not the people who are reading the book and getting better.
Right. Yes. And yeah, I read the book and got better. Certainly, I've heard that story. I don't know. That's not the norm. A lot of people have that story. It's great when that happens. But I think most people need a little more than just reading the book and or reading a book about this. And I don't know why necessarily. I mean, we could talk about that, but these are I view these as just learned neural circuits in the brain. Your brain has learned to keep the pain alarm on. And retraining this part of the brain does require some knowledge. It requires you to be thinking and understanding things differently. Um, but this is not happening in the thinking part of your brain, or you would have thought your way out of it yesterday. So this is happening at sort of deeper neurologic circuits than just your cognitive brain. And that part of your brain learns differently. I like people to think about having two brains. You don't have two brains, you have one brain. But there is a large part of your brain you don't have direct control over. And that's where this is happening. And so getting rid of the idea that, oh, I understand it and now I'll just fix it. Understanding it is required, but you can't just fix it because this is happening in the part of the brain that nobody on the planet has direct control over. If you had direct control, who wants pain? If you had direct control over it, you would have stopped it yesterday. And that's why people think, oh, it must be coming from the back. I have really good brain skills. I can cope through adversity. I know how to suck it up. I know how to grip my teeth. Even know how to tell myself, you'll be okay. You'll be okay. But the problem is, this is happening in a part of your brain that doesn't really operate with language and intellect. It's intelligent. This part of your brain runs your whole body, but it's not intellectual. And every time you tell it, I'm okay, it doesn't really, it just hears, it does not speak English. So accessing the cognitive understanding is important, but then delivering that message to the lower or more primitive part of your brain that you don't have direct control over takes more than just uh, reading the next book. And so I like to say that we need cognitive brain on board. If the captain of the ship doesn't understand these ideas, your crew brain will never get them. But just understanding them intellectually, very important, and I'm glad people who are like, "Yes, I get this, I'm sure I have this." That's just step 1. Now we have to transmit that message from your cognitive brain down to your subconscious brain, which is running the show, your primitive survival brain, and this part of your brain, this lower part of your brain does not learn by reading books and watching lectures. This lower part of your brain learns by experience and repetition. And that's how my autonomic nervous system got the way mine is, and how yours got the way yours is by through a lifetime of experience. So if we want to change this autonomic nervous system, this more primitive part of my brain, and I call it primitive, it's very advanced. I mean, it's running my whole body. But again, it's just not the intellect. And if I want to change this part of my brain and my nervous system, uh, I have to give it new experiences. It's an experiential learner. And specifically, I want to give it experiences of safety. More specifically, I want to give it experiences of safety in the body. And this whole change from it's not just getting rid of your back pain or your headaches or your IBS or whatever you're working on. It's really about changing your brain's understanding of your body, that your body's actually safe. And your brain can let go of the tension that it's been holding on to. It's just been protecting you and it's been overprotective. And teaching this brain, your primitive brain that runs the body to let go of that is not an intellectual teaching. It takes other tools.
Because how many people are we meeting that are like, I'm talking to my brain, I'm bringing safety to it all the time, I'm telling it all the time, and I'm thinking, you have a very smart brain, and your unconscious mind is also very smart, so you can't just tell it. You can't just point the finger. There's some kind of relationship that has to happen to really for the unconscious mind and for the nervous system to feel calm, and this is the habit. This is the love, the compassion. This is the love game that we're talking about. And this is a new relationship. It's a new way that we need to speak with ourselves. I always say, you can't speak at you. It must be a love affair. And then people get all weird with me when I start talking about that. But the point is, because people are doing the work, they're talking to their brain, they're having a relationship, but there's something for some people, it's even more subtle.
Yeah. So here's the framework that I like for people to think about. And again, we're operating with the understanding that there is something running us, that there's something running us through the autonomic nervous system. And I think it really helps a lot of people to understand some of the neuroscience and neuroanatomy behind this. These are real nerves running to real parts of your body. In fact, all over your body, every part of your body, this autonomic nervous system. That's not a theoretical construct. We have an autonomic nervous system, as does every animal on the planet. And it runs our body through this network of neurons. This autonomic nervous system network of neurons goes to your heart, your lungs, your bowel, your bladder, your sweat glands, your hormones, and your inflammatory system, your immune system. None of this stuff is sort of just happens. There's something in you. There's a conductor, is what I like to say, and that conductor is in your brain. You just don't have direct access to that part of your brain. You have certain access to it. You don't have direct access to it. There are ways you can access this part of your brain, but it's not through yelling at it or talking to it. We need to use a different set of tools. So, most of my successful patients start rewiring their brain by talking to their own brain. I have a guy who named his brain George. And whenever his back pain flares up or his anxiety, and he has no control over this. This is his autonomic nervous system practicing some patterns of behavior that he has no idea where this came from. Actually, he can look back and go, I can see why my autonomic nervous system might be a little on edge based on some things that have happened to me. But that just understanding that doesn't do me any good. It still seems to be in this pattern. But now, when these things do happen, he steps back and he says, George, I see what you're doing. This is super helpful to him. Helps him realize this isn't him. He doesn't want this. No part of him wants this. This is his primitive survival brain running some circuits that developed outside of his conscious awareness. And so when we're saying brain circuits, it's important to understand that this is not your fault. And it's important for him to and he now understands, "This isn't my fault. I didn't make this happen. This is happening way below my level of awareness. My brain was doing some things that it thought was good for me and may well have been good for me at some time in the past, and it had to do them enough. It's now gotten in a pattern of a little bit of hypervigilance." But that taking the blame off and saying and realizing, yeah, we all have brains that work like this. And then also telling yourself you don't have a disease. This isn't a diseased brain. This isn't a psychiatric illness. This is a normal brain doing what brains do when they have to do something over and over. If they've been practicing it, they're good at it. If your brain's been practicing anxiety or tension in the body, muscle tension, some other thing that's keeping you like this, your brain's like really good at doing that thing because it wants you to be like this. It thinks it's good for you to be on edge. And some brains discover that, oh, panic attacks keep you on edge. Low grade anxiety all day long keeps you on edge. Your irritable bowel syndrome keeps you on edge. I've discovered that if I screw up and mess with your gut, that keeps you kind of like this all day long. Other brains discover that, oh, if I keep that back muscle spasming here and there, that'll keep you on edge. That just keeps you all bent out of shape. And I think that's good. I think it's good for us to be on edge. Then if anything bad happens, we'll be ready for it. So,
We're ready.
yeah. So, uh,
Let's answer a few questions, and I want to continue. But and the good news is that what you just said, is part of a solution, and we have to learn it over and over again. Yeah, it doesn't come natural. It's not a habit yet, but we all are capable at any point in our lives with any kind of situation to learn a new habit. That's the good news.
yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah. This is habit 101. So I've had people call me and said, "Oh, I've watched your videos and, I don't have pain, but I've got something, I'm trying to quit smoking or I'm trying to, use less marijuana or something." I'm like, "Yeah. Oh, yeah. We can use these same ideas. This is just about changing habits in your brain."
Let's answer Linda's question. And I know, Linda, and I know that you're struggling, and I'm happy you're here. Let's ask the doc. You have an experience with severe TND long term, as well as trigeminal neuralgia caused by dental surgery, 24/7 pain.
Mm. Yeah. So you're just wanting to know, can you use these tools for this, or is it reasonable to use these tools for trigeminal neuralgia and facial pain? Is that the question?
Yeah, even though it's been a long time, I mean, I've spoken to Linda like through the YouTube. I believe that these methods applied can help her change that 24/7 pain.
Yeah, yes. I find that as a general rule, there's no universal truth here, but the general rule, there are certain types of pain that, in my experience, take longer and never have I heard anyone say, "I read the book and I got it better." I have never and that doesn't mean it's never happened. I'm just saying in my experience, I don't think I've ever had anybody say, "Oh, I read this book and then somehow, my facial pain got better." I've heard that for back pain, although not every time by any means for back pain, but I don't think I've ever heard that with facial and I've never heard that with pelvic pain. I just read a book and got better. And so I think of those, and I may be even wrong about this, I don't know, but I think of, often the face, our pelvis, these are really core areas of our identity. And I somehow think that those somehow are maybe deeper seated neural circuits in a lot of people that maybe take a little more work or a little more time. Sometimes more work just means more patience. Um, but yes, I think there's no such thing as a nerve pain that cannot be helped by this. And that's true of any nerve pain. Um, i- so, but so I think you can use these tools. I think it's can be difficult. I also want to say that for those kind of nerve pains and my experience with facial pain, trigeminal neuralgia, and pelvic pain, somehow I've lumped those together, even though they're they're not the same thing. Actually, they are the same thing in my book. They're just the autonomic nervous system or the central nervous system being hypervigilant and keeping pain nerves firing. Um, But, I think most of those people need to, and again, you do you. That's I like helping people figure out where they need to work. On the other side, what we're talking about watching your observing your, sensations with kindness and with loving care and with just letting them happen, and we can talk about that more. But then the other side of this is the emotional burden side of this. And, so I like to say there are 2 things keeping your brain hypervigilant. One is just a habit loop that it's gotten into. And that's a and everybody, if you have pain for more than 6 months, never mind years, you have a habit loop in your brain. And it can really help to do these, tools of somatic tracking and kind observation of your symptoms to teach your brain that it's okay to observe these sensations with kindness. You don't have to react with fear. The other side of it, though, is and the other thing keeping brains hypervigilant is what I call the under the hood stuff. And this is these are the your emotions that you may or may not be aware of emotions. They may be buried, then we call them repressed, but they don't have to be. Any emotion can keep me a little hypervigilant. Thoughts, negative self-talk, and my own worry thoughts, that keeps me hypervigilant. And so a lot of people, let me give you an example of an emotion, and one of these things I call under the hood stuff, anger. This is not universal. This is not everybody's issue, but a lot of people have some anger underneath. Some of them don't recognize it, and I would say women more than men don't recognize it. We're just culturated to not show it. Although I'm somebody who doesn't show anger, and now that I see, I used to think I never got angry. Now I realize, oh, I just wasn't paying attention. Um, but now that I can see it, getting that anger out can be really helpful. But I see other people who say, "Yeah, I'm angry. I get that, but I'm not repressing it. I know I'm angry. I'm pissed off at this guy or this situation. But what am I going to do? I'm not going to go punch somebody in the nose. I'm not going to write a nasty email. That wouldn't help. Do you know what would happen if I wrote that email to my job or my family dynamics? I'll keep it under the hood. You may be able to keep your anger under the hood, but your autonomic nervous system knows you're angry. And when I'm angry, I'm hypervigilant. If I do have an alarm running, I'm not going to turn it off when I'm like this. So, one of the key concepts of mind body medicine is getting out what's in, getting these emotion and Nicole Sachs talks about this a lot, that, you have an emotional reservoir, and can we unburden it? Can you get some of this out? So I see these 2 sort of related concepts. There's the pain reprocessing therapy, observing, which the key treatment here is understanding that things are different, understanding that your pain's not coming from tissue damage, but from your brain, and then delivering that message from your cognitive understanding to the more primitive brain using body awareness tools and teaching your brain that we can watch these sensations differently than fear, and practicing that over and over to practice a new habit. And the old habit was sensation, uh-oh, sensation, uh-oh. The new habit is sensation, allow it. Sensation, allow it. That's pain reprocessing. Then over here, the second thing keeping brains hypervigilant is this under the hood stuff, our emotional burden. And different people need to work on different aspects of this and figure out which was important for them.
Clark this question a lot, and I learned a lot from my teacher and our colleague, Dr. David Hanstom. What is the threat? What is the threat that's still causing the brain to feel the need to protect? And that's under the hood, all times, that understanding, and how we bring safety. And that's what you said. So it's also to stop and look and be loving and kind and be like, wow, my brain must still be feeling this perceived threat. It's protecting me. It's doing this amazing job of protecting me. And how do I have this relationship of understanding the threat safety physiology? And by the way, Linda, Dr. Fanestil is doing, you're working on Zoom, aren't you?
Sure.
And so it doesn't matter whether you're in Colorado or not. And Ellen is like, yeah, I'm talking to my brain, but it's not working. So I think the same advice and again, support. And there's such a community. I mean, we're blessed to have this huge community of support, and the doctors are so available to come talk, and they're speaking through the symptomatic me and on YouTube and Dr. Schubiner. So, and again, we don't want to keep hearing it here. We're going to have to sink down there, go under the hood. I love that, under the hood, into the sub. I like to say, what if we create a bridge between the conscious mind and the subconscious mind? Can that help if we can understand what's going on and under the hood? And that may be where people need to go to be really connected themselves. What do you think of that, Dr. Brad?
Yeah, yeah, I think everybody's gotta figure this out for themselves. I certainly see a lot of people who are like, "Well, I don't have a lot of," and we all have under the hood stuff, I think, but I see a lot of people who think, "Well, nothing big." I guess we talk about this is sort of related to very, very related to trauma work. But I see people who are like, well, I don't know if I had that much trauma, really. I mean, yeah, whatever. My dad was a little strict. He never hit me. It wasn't that big a deal. Or some minor thing. Everybody has that. But trauma isn't what happened to you. Trauma is what happened inside you when something occurred. And that can be different in different people, depending on how sensitive of a human being you are. I saw a woman just a week or two ago who's the big thing that came up. We were talking about a situation that happened to her recently, just in the last week or two, that made her feel sort of frustrated at this other person, but also helpless about this, what she could do about this situation. And I asked, "Have you ever felt that before?" Does that remind you of anything? And what it reminded her of was not any terrible big bad event. It reminded her of an issue when she was 3 or 4 years old, where she and her dad had gone to the store to buy a new goldfish, and they were going to put this in this new goldfish bowl for her. This is actually a kind of a nice, warm thing, kind of fun thing. And as they're doing this, and he's having her do it, to help her. Oh, it's your fish. And the fish comes out of the plastic bag and lands on the floor, on the ground here. And I'm sure the dad could have just gone "Foomp" and put it in, but he was trying to instill, good for him, probably. He's thinking, "Oh, you can do this." But it freaked her out. And she's just sitting there going, "I can't pick it up, and I tried once, and it's slippery, and then I could," but she hated the idea that the fish was gonna die because she had spilled it, and it had to go in this bowl, but she couldn't do it, and she's sitting there almost paralyzed, and there's part of her that's kind of, "Why won't dad just do this?" And he's, I'm sure, out of a very good vibe, wanting to teach her, "You can do this. It's okay, blah, blah, blah." So there was no big T trauma here. It wasn't like anybody hit her or was even yelling at her. But this is what this current event, it reminded her of this little thing. And she said, "Oh, yeah, that comes up often for me. I think about this event." She needs to, so here's some past event that's still pretty alive, very alive in her nervous system. She can feel the emotion of that event here 60 years later. And so that's something that, can we get rid of the emotion related to that event? And there are ways to do that. Some people do this through writing, expressive writing, or Nicole Sachs has her 3-column writing, and her thing that she calls journal speak. And Howard Schubner has a great writing program in his book, Unlearn Your Pain. Other people get to these emotions of things like this, more through emotional awareness and expression therapy, EAET, which I love to do with people, and so different people get at these things different, but, that's how, when people think, "Oh, I've explored my trauma," or I've dealt with I solved my mommy issues." It's not always that deep a thing. As I say, trauma isn't just some big thing that is, well, she just happened to be in a vulnerable state in this one thing situation, and this event from 60 plus years ago is still living inside her.
Key there. And also, I'd like to just say, can we meet our emotions sometimes and understand them? And because what does Dr. Clark say? You know, become a butterfly on the wall of your childhood. So if she could watch what was going on there, she'd have compassion and love and kind of be like, wow, she felt like abandoned. The
Mhm.
fish was abandoned and she felt abandoned. That's what she experienced. So very interesting story. So Donna's just sharing, about chronic fatigue
Eh,
for a few years.
hey, Tovah, can I have one more response to Linda and
Please,
facial pain?
please, do
I was
respond to
seeing
that.
something in this chat here, and she said, "I got rid of my some other problems, but I now I've got this trigeminal neuralgia." That has gotta be so frustrating. That, no, I understand enough about this that, look, I've gotten some other problems better, and this isn't seeming to respond to the same type of thing. So that would naturally kinda make you go, "Maybe there's something else happening here." And, totally understandable, and I don't know for sure. I don't know 100% sure in everybody I see, but for people, especially with nerve pain, and they're like, "Ah, this is," I love to at least have them become familiar, and maybe Linda already is, with Vidyamala Birch, Vidyamala Birch, Burch, is her last name, Vidyamala, Vidyamala. She's in the UK somewhere, I think, and she teaches. She's not really in this neuroplastic retraining world, but she is in the world of managing pain because she had a spinal cord injury, I think, in her teens at a very young age, pretty devastating, where she couldn't walk, and then she was recovering from this, and then sometime in her 20s had a car accident that just then she has not, I don't know, that I think she might be able to walk with walkers, and now she's in her 50s or so she's, it's way past this, and she uses wheelchairs for distances, I think, and she says, "I still have pain." And yet she has a huge full life. It doesn't interfere with anything anymore, and she teaches, that there, I don't think she would say, based on the stuff I've read from her and seen or heard her talk, I don't think she would say that I've eliminated my pain, but she's used a lot of these tools to live a life where it almost doesn't matter to her that she has this pain anymore, and so we don't have to, I always say, we're not trying to eliminate your pain. We're trying to change your relationship with it so that when it does occur, you can respond differently. And for some people, the idea that it's going to completely go away, listen, I don't want to be cavalier or dismissive about people's pain. Some trigeminal neuralgia pain's terrible. I mean, these lancinating, severe shooting pains can be terrible, and often are. But and it sucks that that's your particular version of pain, at least right now, or maybe for a long time on the planet. And I don't mean to compare or trivialize what's happening to you or even say that, "Oh, that sounds worse than what I'm dealing with." But I do wanna, it can help to understand that we all have pain, and pain is part of the human condition. Now, I'm not, it sucks to have trigeminal neuralgia, and of course you wanna get rid of that. But some level of, and it can sound kinda weird, some level of, okay, I have this, and when it does flare up, my response is not gonna be, "Oh, crap, not that again." My response is gonna be, "Up, it's one of those flare-up things. Let me pull out my tools. Let me respond this way, even if that doesn't fix it today." That general response is gonna be better for me over the long run than the other response of, "Uh-oh, it's flared up. I must not be doing something right." I don't know how much sense I'm making.
You healed these other conditions, and so the belief and trust you will heal this was also important message to your body. You're a strong and sensitive woman, I'm sure of that. So Donna has chronic fatigue, had it for 2 years. Does she listen to her body and give it a rest? Or she tries to here's the question. Say
Mhm.
it, Dr. Brad.
Yeah. 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 Uh, so, this is really about the understanding. Great question, by the way. I mean, this is super common, and when one person asks this question, there's always 20 more people going, "Oh, I'm glad that got asked. What's he gonna say?" Um, so, uh, this is not about pushing through for most people. It is about getting back to life, but it's the attitude you do it with. And, the attitude, if your attitude is, "You know what? I'm gonna suck it up. I can push through this and do okay." You can suck it up. Most people I see with chronic fatigue, chronic pain, chronic anxiety, whatever they're dealing with, most of them are great sucker uppers. In fact, they've been sucking it up for months or years. They have a fantastic coping skills, and they know how to suck it up, and, "You know what? I'm gonna push through today." And they can do it when they really need to. At least a lot of them can. Not everybody, but many can. That's a great quality. Keep it. It's called a coping skill. But we're not talking about coping better here. We're talking about rewiring some neural circuits, and that is different than coping. So cope when you need to. There may be certain times where you have to do something and you have to push through it. Fine. But uh, we want to practice most of the time allowing these symptoms without pushing through them. And by that, what I mean is maybe for an example would be, well, I know if I walk a mile, that's going to screw me up for 5 days. How far can I walk? But I can walk a quarter mile. And as long as I don't do it too fast, I usually seem to be okay. I'm like, oh, why don't you walk a quarter mile? and see how you feel after it, and see how you feel a few hours later, and see how you feel the next day. And you'll have fewer symptoms. And can you be with those with an attitude of kind awareness? Oh, look what my brain's doing with a quarter mile. And that's okay. I'll get through today. I may need to rest, but it's only one day. But let me use these tools of being aware of what's going on. Oh, wow. Yeah, I'm tired here. I've got some pressure in my temples there. This is how I feel after doing this, but I'm okay. So I often recommend people shorten it up if they've got a chronic fatigue thing and don't try to push through, but maybe do shorter but more often. I had a guy who could only run a certain amount of time. Every time he ran more than a quarter mile, his knee would act up. And I said, "Oh, go ahead and run a quarter mile. Wait for it to act up. But then when it acts up, just run a couple more 100 yards and stop." And while you're running those couple 100 yards, observe it carefully and go, "Oh, interesting. What's on the inside of the knee? What shape is that?" And looking at this sensation very closely, just to give his brain the experience of having the sensation with him in a curious mindset instead of in a push through mindset. And he could push through. He said, "Well, I could push through to a mile, but that'll screw me up. I won't be able to run the next day." He's a big runner his whole life. Um, and so I said, "Well, then, go." And so rather than completely stop running or push through the longer, try a little shorter, give your brain the experience. He said, "I can do that for 100 or 200. If I try to do it for an extra quarter mile, though, or an extra half mile, I get frustrated." Okay, well, now you're not observing it with kindness. You're observing it with frustration. So shorten up the period. So let's go back to the attitude we all want to have while we're talking to our brain or just observing our own self, observing our emotions, observing our body sensations. And by the way, emotions are body sensations. But when you're observing things going on in your body, observing your own emotions, talking to yourself, Tovah talked about this loving attitude you want to bring. I like people to understand that the attitude that you want to bring whenever you're observing these whatever you're watching here is the same attitude that you would bring to a scared child because your autonomic nervous system is very much like a scared child. For one thing, and this I'm just going back to the neurology of how an autonomic nervous system works. For one thing, it's scared for you. And that's if it's working correctly, it's scared for you. It's that way in everybody. It jumps out of the way of the onrushing car before your neocortex even knew the car was there. If your autonomic nervous system is working correctly, it is scared for you. It keeps you alive quickly. And it's childlike because it doesn't see the big picture. It's a primitive part of your brain. It sees all your past experiences, habits or patterns of behavior that have resulted in it being a little hypervigilant. We want to bring to it this new awareness that thank you for taking care of me in the past, but I don't need that right now. That's not helping me. But we want to bring it with this kind, gentle attitude. How do you talk to a scared child? Do you yell at her? Do you tell her, "Shut the hell up, you're bothering me so much today"? Do you tell her, "Oh, come on, suck it up, you scared little 4-year-old who's scared of a shadow"? Or do you say, "You know what? I'm just gonna ignore you today. We're gonna push through, and I'm gonna ignore it, and you're gonna push through with me. Here we go." No! You go towards the child. You don't run away from her and ignore her, and you don't yell at her. You put your arm around her, and you say, "Oh, I see that you're scared. I used to be scared of shadows when I was 4 years old. I get where you're coming from, but I'm the adult in the room, and we're okay. Everything's fine. I know that." You're not BSing your brain here. The adult knows that this shadow is not scary and is delivering this message, but you're delivering the message with your arm around the child. So let me give an analogy. I talk about this in my class all the time, and I just know this drives this point home to people. If I'm in a park, a public park, with my 5-year-old, and I know that she had a scary dog experience a month ago, and I'm 20, 30 meters away from her. She's over here, I'm over here, and I see a dog coming up to her, and I can tell she's starting to freak out because of her past experience. And I yell over, "Hey, don't worry about it. That's our neighbor's dog. No, it's a safe dog. I know that dog. I'm not worried." I didn't help her all that much. I'm over here, she's over there with a dog near her and just had this terrible experience. The way I help her is I go over there. I put my arm around her and I say, "Oh, don't worry. That's our neighbor's dog." Now I'm not just telling her. Now she feels my genuine calmness. And dog comes closer. And I say, "This is great. We're going to get to pet the dog." She feels my enthusiasm. This is the energy you want to bring to your scared child brain. We go towards sensations and we put our arm figuratively around them by paying close attention to them. We sit with the sensations, be it pain, be it a tension in the chest, be it an empty feeling in the chest because I'm depressed right now, whatever this is. And we sit closely with it. Now we're in the language of the autonomic nervous system, which is body language. And I have my arm figuratively around it when I'm really sitting and noticing these sensations carefully. And now, when I deliver this message of, I see what's happening, we're safe, we're not in any danger. Now, it's not so much the words, although those can be helpful, but it's the sense, it's this feeling that, oh, you're right with me. So, when I like to say, when a child is scared, we get tears and behavior problems. When a brain is scared, we get tension in the body. Most of us have spent our entire months, years, lives with whatever our problem is, doing the exact thing we never do to a scared child. We've been yelling at it. We've been telling it to shut the hell up, you're driving me crazy today. Or we've been telling it, come on, suck it up, you can do this. Or we've been saying, I'm going to ignore you today. I just can't. No. Doesn't help. Might get you through the day. You didn't calm down the child. You don't calm down your brain with that. So we want to this is the whole essence behind all these exercises. We're having this, you call this loving attitude. Yes, we're putting our arm, and I can't make a child stop crying. I can give her what she needs, a little soothing. Sometimes the harder I try to make her stop crying, it makes it worse. Like, I know, I shouldn't be. So I can't make my brain stop its fear messages. I don't have that level of control over this part of my brain. So I just give it what it needs, a little soothing, and I allow that if I keep doing this, maybe things will change.
That the response to EMDR or psychotherapy for calming the brain and connecting the conscious to the unconscious mind. Do you have any particular opinion about those 2 types of
Yeah. Yeah, I got an opinion about everything. I think there are a lot this is exactly about, can we find a way to access, and I think there are of different ways for different people to access this part of your brain. I think it's fine to use multiple ways and find something that seems to work best for you. I think writing can access this part of your brain. I think of writing as, um, moving sort of emotions and thoughts from this primitive part of our brain into the intellectual part of our brain, by putting a name on it. This part of the lower part of the brain doesn't operate in words. And when you put words on what you're feeling, you may say, I know what I'm feeling. It's surprising what happens to many people when they put words on it. Um, they're now having to look at it in a little more detail. And Bessel van der Kolk, who wrote, of course, "The Body Keeps the Score," would say that we're moving this memory or thought or emotion from the primitive part of the brain into a different part of the brain when we put words to it, and then this thing is no longer surreptitiously running us. It's still there, maybe, but at least a chunk of it is no longer in this part of the brain. We sort of shine the light on it. It's no longer surreptitiously running us. So writing, and there's different forms and ways of writing. I've mentioned Nicole Sachs and Howard Schubner. That can help a lot of people. So that's one way. I think EAET is another way to access these things, emotional awareness and expression therapy. And there's some data behind that now. I think EMDR accesses this different part of the brain, and there's data behind that. I think hallucinogenics can access this part of the brain. And there's some data, some limited data. We should have more, and hopefully, if the laws are changing, we'll start being able to do more and better studies with this. But I think that's a great way for some people to access this part of the brain. I think hypnotherapy can access this part of the brain for a lot of people. So different things I think so often acupuncture or Reiki, lying on a table with somebody putting you into a different state of mind and putting your body in a different framework. Now your brain you're out of your intellectual brain and you're into this different part of your brain. Body work, I like to say that your body is your subconscious mind. And so people working on this, they're working on this part of your brain when you're doing a lot of kinds of body work. So all of these things are ways in, And I think it's reasonable for people to say, I've tried. I just saw a woman a couple of weeks ago who's done lots of writing, and she thought, I kind of found it somewhat useful. And maybe there's a better way. And maybe she were working, maybe Nicole Sachs would say, oh, I've talked to her though, and we got past some little, that may happen. I don't know. But I tell you what, her big break was, and she's like, oh, I'm really feeling like the emotions are coming out with emotional awareness and expression therapy. And so different things for different people.
Question, which is, I'd like you're calling yourself a difficult case, which is also that labeling, that kind of like difficult, And so you're a case, you have a case, you have a situation, you have a set of symptoms that, you have a brain that's, and you would like your pain to take a break or turn off.
Yeah.
God.
Yeah, who wouldn't? And so, yeah, this is, it just really sucks. And when these things go on and people have done the work and I don't, and then you get to the point where I must not be doing it right, or you slip back into maybe there's something else going on. Maybe I should do more medical testing, or the other way you slip back is there's something wrong with me. I read about these people getting better. And I think both of those are legitimate questions. I mean, I think let's ask the question, do you need more medical testing? That's a legitimate question. Most of the people I see when we review their medical situation, I'm like, holy crap, no, you've done way too much, man. You've done plenty. You've done your due diligence. But sometimes, if that was a few years ago, I'm like, I just saw somebody yesterday who'd done a bunch of heart tests, but they're all 2 years old. And she's a young woman who has trouble with exercising, even though she shouldn't have trouble with exercising. And from my standpoint, from a safety sort of like medical, yeah, you're okay. You could go do whatever you want. That doesn't really help her. She's like, well, that doesn't help me when I'm, trying to hike and I can't. I have to stop and turn around and go back home. Um, so part of her, we talked about this. Do you think? And I asked her, you think part of you getting better, in addition to we talked about her, why she has this feeling of she definitely had a feeling of a little bit of like that she had been dismissed a little by the medical system, despite the fact that from my point of view all the appropriate tests had been done. And she didn't have anything specifically bad to say about this doctor. She just got the feeling that she wanted a little more reassurance. And quite frankly, that may say more about her than about the doctor, quite frankly. I don't know. I just met her yesterday. I don't know that much. So I'm not trying to put any blame here, but it turns out with a little more discussion, there have been a lot of other times in her life when she felt dismissed, way before any of this medical stuff happened. So maybe it's that. But in a conversation, it turns out that she's probably not going to feel the next level of, okay, I'm really okay without a little more medical testing. And so that may be part of her getting better, even though she's had a lot. And I'm okay. Let's do it. Let's get you on a treadmill test, and let's crank it up to higher than just normal testing. Let's let you go. And let's get you to maximum where you have all these problems and see and get some reassurance that your heart's not going to stop or something. Even though I don't need that, but she needs it. So that can be part of it. Some more medical testing. More often than not, what I see though in people is that I see a lot of people who are practicing maybe somatic tracking, watching their symptoms. And when I practice it with them, they're like, well, and I ask them, was that any different than the way you've been doing it? And they're like, well, yeah, that was different. And I just, again, so very recently, in fact, it was just yesterday, I had a guy, and he's like, yeah, that is different. I'm still worried I'm not going to be able to deliver this message though. Uh, because he's still got some worries about his body. And, and so part of the reassurance for him was like, but you just told me that what we just did is different than all the somatic tracking you've been doing for the last 9 months because you've been working with a coach. And that was different. What was different about it? And he said, well, there was a little part of me in the other ones that I was waiting for it to get better. And when I did it with you and the verbiage you used, it was very clear we weren't trying to get better. In fact, at one point, you even told it to get worse. And I kind of went with you and I was able to stay with that. We talked about, were you able to stay with me here? And yes. And is that different? Yes. You need to trust that I know you've been doing this for 9 months. That little tweak is going to make a huge difference. That's why I see so many people. I live in Boulder, Colorado. You don't know how many people I see who I've been practicing mindfulness for 10 years. I've been all sorts of retreats, this, and I'm like, you could probably teach me some stuff. But when they use these tools and we practice in the office, they're like, "Oh, well, that's a little different than I was doing it," especially when they were doing it with their own pain or whatever. So sometimes it's a subtle change like that. And then other times for people who've been at it a long time, it's more, maybe we need some other tools to access the under the hood stuff. And this is difficult stuff. I don't, it's not like, oh, I got 100% success rate. I don't. I think these are people are struggling here, but I do believe, I firmly believe that I have to always say there's two operating principles fundamental. One, the human body is an amazing healing machine. And over again, I've seen people get better from things that looked horrific. I've seen people literally crawl off of deathbeds or out of palliative care with G tubes in their stomach, and because they couldn't eat, and now they're eating. And so human body can recover. It can heal if we can put it in the right state. I'm not saying that's an easy state to find for everybody, but it can heal. And two, you have your own innate wisdom about what's right for you. I don't know what's right for you. I love troubleshooting. Let's figure it out. But this is not the doctor telling you how to get better. This is somebody helping you explore, hmm, let's see, did this work? Okay, it sounds like you're telling me that didn't work. And I'm guilty of this all the time of sort of wanting to inflict, okay, here's the way I teach this. And I notice myself after a visit sometimes like, oh, I went down my path of you got to do this. And the person actually told me up front, I'm here because of, and maybe they were telling, I've got the emotional thing, or I just wanted a reassurance from an old guy with white hair who's actually been in ICUs for most of his career. I just needed that reassurance. And I spent the whole visit talking about, okay, here's what we're going to do. And what they really needed me to do was lie them back on an exam table, poke around on their stomach or listen to their heart or their lungs or whatever, and look at their medical records and say, wow, okay, I've really considered this. And I'm very convinced that you can do this and that this is neuroplastic. And I spent only a tiny part of the visit with that. So I'm guilty of this same thing, and I try to catch myself of trying to flick. This is about what's right for you. And this is why it's so difficult, I think, for most doctors to get into this. This is a different role. We are trained to fix you. You come in and I fix you. I'm like, oh, you need this pill. You need this procedure. And we're good at it. And we cure a lot of things. If I have a heart attack, I want a doctor. I don't want to do mind body if I'm in the middle of a heart attack. I want a freaking cardiologist in here to put a stent in my coronary artery. So there's a lot of things that the Western medical concept of somebody, you put yourself in the hands of a capable professional and they fix you. Great idea for a lot of problems. It's just not, and it's how doctors were trained. But this is a different model. This is you fixing. I don't fix anybody. I just show you how your brain works, give you some tools to rewire it. And there's some troubleshooting there and figuring out what your right tools are.
Yeah, and how to being their own therapist, and people are like, "No, I don't wanna do this." So yeah.
Yeah. Oh, so you're out of pain, but still, got a lot of, I guess, what is this, like, fear and worry about moving forward with life, and here's some, again, a very core part of the body, and I get the sense that I don't know if this is the question, like, can I start I might get into relationships again, and then here I am, like, sexual function, which, of course, is the pelvic issues, super difficult stuff, and yeah. Wow, that's a great question. Uh, I think I don't know if this applies specifically to you, and I don't know the name of that person, if they had a name on here. But I don't yeah, oh, GameVids 24. I don't know GameVids 24. Yeah, I'm sure. Um, uh I think it's clear to me, and again, I don't know if this is what goes through my head when I read this, is that, "Oh, okay, some things have calmed down." And I guess my real question is, do you think those things calmed down because of some work that you did in this mind-body field and this brain retraining, or did it just happen to get better? And if you feel like, no, I think it's probably due to this. And by the way, a lot of people aren't sure, especially at first. Is it because I was doing this? Or is it because I was doing a bunch of stuff? I was working with a new therapist, a new pelvic therapist, and I started this new medication, and some things in my life changed, and I was doing this. And they're like, so I don't know. Maybe it was some of each of those, but regardless, if it got better, that's a good indication that from a physical standpoint, things are okay. I mean, uh, things cleared up, your pain cleared up, okay. So things got better, and that suggests to me that, oh, well, then things are working. There's no abnormal problem here in the body. And what I like to do, and I was going to say this about the CFS, and that we'd use this concomitantly here, is or we talk about this in the same vein. The other tool I like for CFS, or the other tool that I like for this kind of situation, is guided imagery. And can you imagine yourself being in this next situation? If it's chronic fatigue, can you imagine yourself climbing a flight of stairs? If it's a sexual encounter or potentially romantic relationship or potentially can you imagine that happening? And really put yourself there. I'm right there. This is what it is. Now, I guess this is maybe easier because sexual fantasies are like, oh, I can do that. But and really put yourself there and then imagine and notice the fear that comes up there. And notice that and then sit with that. Can you sit with the fear that arises when you're doing an imaginary exercise? So for people with chronic fatigue, this is an example would be, I get dizzy when I climb a flight of stairs. Well, I can't tell that person, just go ahead and climb the flight of stairs and just relax into your dizziness. You're not safe. When you're halfway up a flight of stairs and dizzy, you are literally not safe. I wouldn't want to be in that situation. You're now bullshitting your brain, trying to tell it while you're halfway up the stairs. Okay, I'll tell myself I'm safe. That's a bunch of BS. But putting yourself there in a guided imagery exercise, I'm gonna imagine myself climbing stairs. There's my heart pounding. There's the breathing getting harder, quicker than it should. Here's a little bit of dizziness coming on. And you're doing this while you're sitting in a chair. Now you really are safe. And now when you sit with that sensation and deliver the message of safety, now you're giving the brain, because your brain doesn't know the difference. This part of your brain doesn't know the difference between reality and imagination. And so when you bring these imaginary exercise to it, it thinks, "Oh, we're right in it." I know intellectually you're not in it, doesn't matter. This part of your brain is in there. And now it's, "Oh, I'm safe halfway up the stairs." Now it's a legit message because you really are safe sitting in the chair in this room doing this thing. Same with a upcoming sexual encounter or phobias. Put yourself in the situation while you are safe in a chair and let the sensations of fear or worry come up and notice what those feel that feeling and be with those for a minute to show your brain that it's okay to have these sensations. When these sensations come up, you don't have to meet them with, oh my God, what's happening?
Mental rehearsal.
Mental rehearsal. Athletes do it all the time, right?
Look, a few more questions, and thank you so much. Take a drink of water, Dr. Bragg.
Yeah, no, I didn't realize, man, I've been talking a lot. Mm.
That's okay. I'm so excited. It's so important what you're saying. It's really, really, I can help a lot of these people asking questions. It's really, and I think we should, this will be up on a recording on the TMS Roundtable, and we can listen to it again. If anyone has questions for Dr. Brad, like send it to me. I'll reach out to him. But I wanted to answer the question, been very patient. Mr. Atomic, Mr. Atomic, where was he? About his foot. You bring that up for me, Brian? Yeah. You see this, Dr. Brad?
Yeah, nerve pain, feet, legs sometimes. Fear of it is, yeah, no doubt. Fear is what keeps it energized. And the doubt is the doubt that it'll ever go away. And trauma history of the charts. Yep, pretty typical. So, and again, I don't say that dismissively. Oh, pretty typical. I'm like, let me just first acknowledge how much that has got to suck. Yeah, and how much and how very real that is. The fact that it's related to trauma history it doesn't make it less real. Real nerves are really firing. This is not. This is very frequently neuroplastic pain is the worst pain I see because of exactly what you just expressed, which is this ever going to go away? I would much rather have a super severe pain with my leg pointing sideways than when a doctor looked at it goes, oh, I can fix that. It may kill me, but just the knowledge that, okay, there's something to do about it. Whereas these other things, we've all gotten this message that I don't know what we're gonna. That's a scary place to be. So first thing, there is something you can do about it, and it's this. It's working on your but trauma work may be a big part of this. Uh, but I just want to, what also crosses my mind and what you say, this fear that you're not going to get better. The part of your brain that we are working with here, and we're trying to deliver messages of safety, doesn't really give a shit about whether you're going to feel good next week and next year. It could care less. This is a freaking lizard on a rock. Am I okay right now? Or do I need to duck under a rock right now? The lizard is not thinking about what it's going to have for dinner tonight or whether something's going to happen a week from now. No, lizards don't. They're just, am I okay right now? So the part of the brain we're trying to retrain here has one concern. Am I safe right now? And if we can manage to just deliver immediate messages of safety, that true messages of safety, that I'm okay right now, then it starts to relearn. It starts to, so this idea of giving it messages of safety throughout the day. And although those fears and worries about what's going to happen to me next week, where's my career going? Where's my life going? Am I going to have a life? Am I never going to have a relationship again? All those things, legit, understand that's part of being human. Of course, we plan for the future and we worry about the future. But every time you bring those worries to your lizard brain, it thinks that is happening right now. And it stays like this. So we want to practice, even if we can't do it all the time. Can we practice brief episodes of giving messages of safety to our brain that are legit by taking, avoiding, keeping the worry thought away from lizard brain just for a moment and turning to the body? And can I just take one slow, deep breath and pay attention to what it feels like? Air going in, air going out. Now, lizard brain, which runs the body, now you have just, instead of bringing a terrifying thought to it, you haven't brought any big magic safety thought to it. You haven't brought any sort of words of wisdom or comfort. You didn't even say anything. But when you do that, your primitive brain is going, oh, we're just focusing on this? And your conscious brain is essentially telling it, yes, you don't have to focus on all the other things. I'm not going to bring all the other shit to you right now. The worries, just for this one breath, I'm not going to bring all that stuff. And you know what else? I'm just, by doing this, I'm also telling you, you don't have to look out for the car that's about to run us over. We're not in that situation. I'm going to step down as the captain of the ship, and I'm going to tell you that it's okay to do a slow, deep breath and pay attention just to what it feels like. Can I start with one breath and pay attention? Even in that breath, felt cool air going in the nostril, warmer air going out. That's all I felt. That was a 2-second exercise, and my brain is processing that. The experiential learner brain, it learns by doing, just got an experience of safety. It just got the experience of it's okay to do nothing but take a breath. By the way, we just activated the vagus nerve, which carries 80% of your parasympathetic fibers, which is the relaxing part of your nervous system. So there's a neurologic sort of understanding and underpinning and neuroanatomy reason why that works. But just sort of conceptually why it works, this is a message of safety because nobody slow nasal breathes under threat. So, and it's a body-based message of safety. It's not a "I'm safe, unsafe" message. It's a body-based message. And the primitive brain is like, now we're in the language of the autonomic nervous system. So even just one breath here and there throughout the day, just those few messages here and there throughout the day, the brain starts learning, oh, I used to get 0 messages a day. I got 5 2-second messages today. Interesting. And then the third time, whoever was the captain, when he stepped down, instead of just doing one breath, actually was able to do 10 breaths. Wow, I got 10 activations of the vagus nerve and 10 messages of safety. That everything, okay. And you do this over time. This brain's an experiential learner. It learns by experience and repetition. Just that simple tool over time. You are starting to change your nervous system because neurons that fire together wire together. And so every time you fire that vagus nerve and fire the parasympathetic nervous system, and you do that multiple times during the day and over a few days, your brain goes, man, we keep firing parasympathetic neurons. We were never doing that before. But I guess if we're going to fire them more often, I should start wiring more together, if that's our new plan. And you're literally building a stronger parasympathetic relaxing part of your nervous system in the same way that if you hit a tennis ball every day for 5 minutes. you will be better in 2 weeks at hitting the tennis ball. Fire your parasympathetic neurons every day just for a few minutes here and there, 10 seconds here, 5 seconds there. It adds up to a minute or 2 during the day. You'll have a stronger parasympathetic nervous system in just a week or 2. You're starting to move the right direction.
Brad, are you still teaching the course to students?
Yeah, I teach an online course. Yeah, and there's always a course going. Yeah, I'm in,
And the good news is good news is we're just gonna keep repeating this because this is the truth. This is the way out. This is neuroplasticity. There's nothing new under the sun. You have to learn it over and over again. And so I'm just thrilled to be here with you. We're gonna wrap up, but I'm gonna call you in about 8 weeks and we're gonna do this again. Okay? Okay.
All right, let's do it.
So bless your heart. Thank you to everyone that showed up. Put your questions in the on the YouTube. I'll send them over to Dr. Brad. We'll get an answer. It's interesting the pattern of answers, which are kind of like similar, but we all need to learn them over and over again. Repetition, repetition. So thank you so much. I am so blessed. I learned so much. You're one of the few recordings that I listen to because I learned so much also. So I'm grateful.
Yeah, and I'm trying now, I'm trying to get more of this out on YouTube. So I've started that a year ago, and I did it like once a month or once every 2 months, but I'm trying to be a little more once a week or get something out, and I'm refining what I'm saying. So I'm hoping that's gonna, help people too, because I wrote a mission statement when I started this 5 years ago, which is gotta get this word out.
So amazing. Wonderful. Whenever you want to come on, even if you want to come on and just you want to co-host with me, you just get this itch. Just call me. We'll bring you back over.
Great, thanks.
Perfect. Have a wonderful day.
All right,
Thank you
thank
so
you.
much.
You too.
God
Yep.
bless.
All right, bye-bye.